I play for you now the song of my people. Okay, just a little bit of head-to-head shooting, or back-to-back shooting more realistically. Just get a sort of a reminder and feel for the two of these guns. Talk to you about what I think is different. Starting with the Shadow 2. Heavy gun, of course, thin. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic sight picture. Such a nice trigger. Wow. Just incredible. There's a reason why this is, by very many people, considered to be sort of the reigning champion right now in terms of competition-built production guns. But there's a new kid on the block, the 92X Performance from Beretta. Certainly commands some attention and deserves some consideration. Equally heavy, with also a very good set of sights on it. Front sight is a little thinner on the CZ. The rear sight is much taller on the CZ. The reset is shorter on the Beretta. It's not just shorter, but there's no take-up. Once you get there, you are at the wall. I think I like the ergonomics of the CZ a little better. This takedown lever on the 92X really bugs me. Man, this is also an amazingly sweet shooter. Yes, indeed. Very sweet shooter. This is definitely a comparison of two top-end, out-of-the-box, competition-ready handguns. Let's take a look at the specs. Of course, they're both 9mm. The barrel length on the CZ Shadow 2 is 4.89 inches, and the Beretta 92X is much longer at 4.9 inches. Virtually the same there. Overall length is 8.53 on the Shadow 2 and 8.7 inches on the 92X. Again, very similar. Same goes for the height at 5.7 on the CZ versus 5.8 inches on the Beretta. And the weight, and this is interesting because the CZ Shadow 2 I thought was one of the heaviest pieces of equipment on earth at 46.5 ounces. The Beretta 92X, 47.61 ounces, beats it in weight. That's either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your perspective. The finish on the Shadow 2 is a nitride in black. It's also available in urban gray and a couple other colors from time to time, but I believe the finish is nitride in each of those cases. Finish on the 92X is called Nistan. It's very interesting. I talked about that more in my in-depth review on Guns America. Go check that out and learn more about that finish. They both have a very similar set of sights. In both cases, they are the blacked out rear and the red fiber optic front. They're both very good sights. I like them both. Some subtle differences. The sights on the front sight on the Shadow 2 is a bit thinner, narrower. And the rear sight on the Shadow 2 is much taller. So the sights sit up a bit higher, it seems, on the Shadow 2 than they do on the Beretta, but very similar. Of course, both guns have a double action, single action trigger. However, neither gun has a decocking mechanism, so that double action really only serves you for restrike capability. Shadow 2 comes with 3 magazines. The 92X comes with 2 magazines. Shadow 2's magazines hold 17 rounds each, while the 92X magazines hold 15 rounds each. So if you're looking for capacity and you're looking for, gear out of the box, there's definitely a lean toward the Shadow 2 in that respect. Thickness of the guns is extremely subjective and also very similar at 1.6 inches, which I measured myself on the Shadow 2, and 1.8 inches on the Beretta. Now, those are at the widest points, so I measured them across the safeties, which you can imagine stick out quite a bit. But again, neither of these guns are likely to be considered by too many people for concealed carry, so that's really kind of a irrelevant dimension, I think. But now here's where we really get down to it. Trigger pull. Guns like this, it's all about ergonomics and trigger. Even if you don't like the sight picture, you can change that, but it's really all about that trigger and the ergonomics. And the trigger on both of these guns is so good that it's difficult, very, very difficult for me to make much of a contrast between them. So I measured them both. The Shadow 2, the double action pull is 8 pounds 7 ounces. Double action pull on the 92X was 7 pounds 3 ounces. That's a considerable difference. However, even though it's more than a pound lighter on the Beretta, it doesn't feel like it so much. The Shadow 2's trigger is so smooth, and this is a whole other conversation, but I've felt for a long time that the smoothness of the trigger's action is much more important than the actual weight. However, very interestingly, the single action trigger pull, which is the one you're going to use all the time on these two guns, is identical. I measured them both at 3 pounds and 11 ounces. Just an opinion grip index, for those of you who are interested in that, there's also a significant difference, and I noticed this, I commented while I was doing my range work with the guns, that the Shadow 2 felt smaller in my hand, and those numbers bear that out. Shadow 2 is definitely smaller in terms of grip, trigger reach, and overall circumference, and that is, the caveat there is that is with these locked aftermarket grips. However, I don't think they're any thinner. In fact, they may even be thicker than the factory aluminum grips that came on the Shadow 2. So if you have a smaller hand, you may find the Shadow 2 a little bit more ergonomic to shoot in terms of trigger reach. And the price of the two guns is also very comparable. They are both in the somewhere between $1,300 and $1,400 range MSRP. There's about a $50 difference in published MSRP. Of course, your results and what deal you're able to find is going to vary, so I'm not going to dwell too much on the price, but they are both valued by the manufacturer to be about the same level. Okay, just for fun, and because I need to use this ammo up, Let's see if either one of these guns has trouble with this steel cased. This is the crappy Winchester steel cased ammo. Not my favorite. In fact, it's probably number one on my all-time list of not favorite. Some guns really have problems with it, and a few don't, but let's find out. When you pay the big bucks for a handgun, it should run just about everything. That is my opinion. Yours may vary. That is mine. Okay, CZ says no problemo. Beretta 92X. What have you to say? Uh-oh. I think that might have just been me. I won't blame the ammo. Just been me. Alright, neither gun had trouble with steel cased, which is good. It is good. And I have to say, what I'm about to say surprises me a little bit, because I've been sort of, you know, on record as not being a huge fan of this extreme dog leg on the back of the Shadow 2. And I will say, in all fairness, the Shadow 2 is wearing an exquisite set of lock grips that have a beautiful contour. They have that Coke bottle shape. I love these grips and the way they make this gun feel. So there is that. So that is a non-standard condition for the gun. But I am liking the way the Shadow 2 feels in my hand a little better than I like the way the 92X feels in my hand. Now that could be, you know, that Vertec grip that not everybody's a fan of. So, but it's not just the back strap or the, you know, any curvature or lack thereof on the grip. It's just something about the way the gun just feels in the hand. And the Shadow 2, you know, has always just felt like somebody poured a mold into my hand and made this gun for me. The sight picture is, on the Shadow 2, among the very best out-of-the-box sights you can get. Of course, it's heavy. They both are. They both have a nice extended beaver tail. They both have fantastic triggers. Of course, saying that I prefer the way the Shadow 2 feels in my hand by no means means that I don't like the way this one feels in my hand, because I do. But, you know, when you're picking them up back and forth like this, you really get a good sense for what you like and don't like better about each one. I will say that the Beretta sight is probably better for quick acquisition. The Shadow 2 sight is probably better for precision. Rapid fire test. I'm going to try and do 5-shot bursts as fast as I can work the trigger. I'm not worried about accuracy. In fact, I'm not even going to aim at my target. I'm just going to shoot them right at the berm. When I have what I consider to be a race gun, you know, a production out-of-the-box race gun, such as the Shadow 2 and the new 92X, I expect to be able to run the trigger really fast. Well, there's a reason they call them race guns, and so you should be able to run the trigger really fast on a race gun. So let's do a test. See how each of these perform with me trying to run the trigger as fast as I can. Now, the caveat is I may suck at doing that today. Some days I'm on and some days I'm not. But the good news is the comparison doesn't lose out because, you know, same shooter, same day, and all that. So anyway, let's see. I'll try like 5-shot bursts. Not bad. I lost count. I lost count. All right. Well, I think I'm going to have to call that a draw. They both perform extremely well to the fast trigger finger. So when you get a little bit of an excited digit, both of these guns will perform. Okay, a little friendly competition. Just 10 yards away is that target. I'm going to start out with the incumbent, the CZ Shadow 2. Oh man. I'm sorry, I just have to take a moment. Whenever I put the CZ Shadow 2 into my hand, I just have to take a moment and go, ah. Incredible. Okay, let's get serious. Okay. Next up. What do you think is going to be next up? It's a comparison between two guns. I just shot one. You should know what the other one's going to be. The Beretta 92X. The front sight just seems so much bigger on the Beretta. Okay, well, it looks like it clustered at what, 1 o'clock? Both of these guns have double action, single action trigger systems. Everything I've been shooting today, I've been shooting single action because of the nature of the two guns. Neither one of them have a decocking mechanism. So if you want to decock it, you have to use the old-fashioned hammer and trigger method of doing that. But I'm going to do that right now because I would like to try to get a feel or a comparison between the two double action pulls as well. So starting with the CZ, and unfortunately you can't do this with the safety on. So starting with the Shadow 2, I'm going to take several shots, double action, and I'll just put the hammer down in between each one. Makes it hard to get into a rhythm that way, but man, just as smooth as glass. Incredible. Now the Shadow 2 has a smooth, very smooth and polished trigger face. The Beretta 92X has a serrated trigger face. Two different approaches. Boy, this one is so sweet. There's no stacking at all. It is just smooth and consistent. Okay, let's do the same thing with the Beretta 92X. Take some double action shots. The trigger reach feels longer on the Beretta. Oh, that's nice. That is nice. So I think you have a longer trigger reach and therefore a longer stroke on the trigger. Man, it is light and it is super smooth. I'm not really feeling any kind of stacking or anything there either. You know, I thought maybe right at the tail end of the pull I felt some, but I don't think so. No, it's very consistent all the way through. That's a sweet one. So I think if you're comparing these two guns and you're looking at the two of them side by side, head to head, and whatever, back to back, they faced each other, then number one, you obviously have high standards and you have good taste, because these are both exceptional good handguns. It really comes down to personal preferences, and I think it really comes down to very subtle personal preferences. It's going to be which trigger just feels a little bit nicer to you. You know, which ergonomics are a little bit more conducive to your style and your preferences. It's really going to come down to that. Brand loyalty could play into it. Obviously, if you love CZs or you love Berettas, you know, if Beretta was your army gun and that's what you've shot ever since, then that's the way you're probably going to go. But the things worth comparing between these two guns, I think that really separate them in whatever way, are really the ergonomics and the triggers, and both are very subjective. So I want to take a look at the ergonomics first. So the CZ Shadow 2, you can see, has this extremely pronounced dog leg in the back. And something that from day one when I got this gun a couple years back for the first review, I questioned whether that was a wise choice. But what that does is that pushes the web of your hand way up into this high beaver tail. And you can see the extension of my finger. It gives you really nice trigger reach, even with that full long double action stroke. And again, those trigger reach numbers bear that out. Now the Beretta went with the Vertec grip for their 92, and you can see that that also is a nice trigger reach. So I'm able to extend and get full trigger reach on that as well. It also has a very nice beaver tail. So if you like that curve, you certainly are probably going to like the way this one feels better. If you like them straight, more 1911 style, then you're probably going to like this one better. You can see that the thickness of the grips are similar. And again, we looked at the numbers on the size differences, but you can see there they are very, very similar in length and in height, you know, all that good stuff. So let's talk about the triggers for a minute. Let's take a look at each trigger. Alright, let's zoom in and take a look at the trigger on the CZ Shadow 2. So it is a bit of a long stroke. That's typical of a double action pull, right, on a hammer fired gun. But I'm able to get just the right amount of finger on it. The trigger itself has that very polished, smooth front. What that allows your that allows your finger to sort of glide along it. And there's some people like that, some people don't. We'll talk about that difference in a moment too versus the Beretta. But the trigger pull in double action is very smooth. There's a tiny bit of take up, you see right there, and then smooth all the way back to the break. Now the reset is short, very tactile. You can hear it, you can feel it, and then there's a little bit, did you see that? A little bit of take up. And then you're back to the wall. Super light, crisp break. I'll show you that one more time. The reset. Right there. A little bit, just a little bit. A couple of millimeters of take up. And you're right there. If you are an accomplished trigger diva, you will notice that little bit of take up, and you will notice that there might be what you perceive as a little tiny bit of sponginess there because of that tiny bit of take up on that trigger. We'll look now at the 92. Okay, the 92X. Different approach to the trigger face. This trigger face has vertical striations or vertical lines in it, and what that allows, and again we can see the trigger reach is good. I'm able to get the pad of my finger, not quite as much as I do with the CZ because this is a bit of a larger grip index. I still get a good amount of finger on the trigger for the double action pull. Now the philosophy with the textured trigger face is that your finger does not slip, and so that allows you to have good control all the way back. As you pull the trigger, you're not losing any energy. And this one also has a very nice, so look, take up is virtually none. It's right there. You can see just, you know, a millimeter. Very smooth pull to the break. Reset. Very short, extremely short, shorter than the CZ. No take up. I am right at the wall. The minute that reset occurs, I am right at the wall. And then that light, crisp break. Show you that again. Reset. Extremely short and no take up. I am right there, right at the wall. If I really had to say which one has a better trigger, I'm going to have to say I think the 92X has a better trigger, but man, we are talking about you know, this is 99 out of 100 and this is 98 out of 100. It's that close. But I'm going to have to say, I think the Beretta has bested the Shadow 2 just a hair in the trigger pull department. Ergonomics, you know, I talked about what's different, whether those things are positive or negative. That's completely up to you. Okay, things I don't like about the Shadow 2. Hold on, I'm thinking. Come on, things I don't like about the Shadow 2. There must be something. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. Things I don't like about the 92X. I'm still on the fence about the Vertec grip. The 92X does also come in the box with a little onesie that you can slip over this grip and give you a curved back strap. And I liked it even less because it was, to me, it was too curved, stuck out too far, and the texture on it was actually painful in the palm of my hand. So I didn't really care for that onesie so much, but it is available for those who have larger hands and want that palm swell. You can get that. But I'm okay with the grip. Again, I just sort of still a little bit on the fence, you know, versus the regular Beretta backstrap. Love everything else about it. The slide stop, slide release lever is a little close to the safety lever, as you can see, and it makes it hard to access. So, you know, a couple, maybe shave a point or two there. But the one thing really that I don't like is this takedown lever. The takedown lever is supposed to be a plus. That's supposed to be like a thumb rest for your forward thumb, but that doesn't work that way for me. I talked about that in depth already, so I'm not going to go into it more. But if I were to buy a 92X, and I do not own this gun, belongs to Beretta, but if I were to buy a 92X, and there's no reason to think I wouldn't, I would probably want to replace this. I would look for, I would think that this part should swap out with a regular takedown lever, and I would do that immediately and get rid of that long shelf that sticks out there because I don't like it. So I did shoot the two groups with each gun, and I shot a slightly better group with the Beretta, and that was mostly due to one flyer I had with the Shadow 2. It was pretty far down, pretty low on that group. That one flyer really expanded the group size, but they were really, other than that, they were extremely similar. They both shot extremely well. They're both easy to shoot. They're both easy to shoot well, and they both perform. So they are both super accurate guns. Okay, so the final word is, I'm definitely not going to say this one's better than that one or pick a winner because they are so close in every way. It really just comes down to very subtle personal preferences. As far as I'm concerned, both of these guns are among the very best in class, no matter what class you put them in. Thanks for watching. I hope I gave you some information that was helpful, maybe in an entertaining way. I'd like to thank Just an Opinion Channel's Patreon patrons. As always, you guys rock. If you would like to help support the channel, make your way over to Patreon and check it out over there.